All right, so I wanted to try something different. I had this idea to kind of just do some commentary on the video I did a couple months ago of my 1500 day journey in Blender, and basically just starting out in 3D, how I got started, um, and kind of like the process, my thought process behind each of the projects. So there's no real script to this video. This is something new for me, but I just wanted to kind of try it out, share it, and kind of see where it goes, right? So basically, I started making 3D at the beginning of 2020. It was literally like a month before the pandemic. And I was sitting at the office at work, and I was clicking through After Effects. I do a lot of work in After Effects for my day job. And I was like, oh, C4D light. So let me kind of see what I can do with it. And I did I made a Game Boy for the first time. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And it's always kind of been my dream to do 3D work and animation. You know, when Toy Story came out when I was a kid, you know, that blew my mind. So I was like, let me see what I can do. So long story short, the pandemic came around. I was no longer having to get up at 4:30 in the morning and drive an hour to work and sit in the office for 8 hours and then drive an hour and a half back home, you know, and have no time. So I was like, let me take these 3 hours or so a day and kind of learn how to make 3D. At the same time, my son was born, the pandemic was going on. I had a 19-month-old as well. So there's a lot going on, but there was a lot of just being in the house, sitting around. And I was like, let me go ahead and kind of fulfill my dream and use this time wisely. So I'm going to just basically play my 1500 day artist journey and kind of take you from the beginning, what I was thinking at the time, why I did what I did, and kind of where I got to now. So here's just a few screenshots. Here's the Game Boy I was talking about. So that's kind of like the first thing I ever made in 3D right there. And then just kind of the process of different projects that I worked on. So let's just jump into it. At the beginning of the video, this is a remake of my childhood bedroom. I did a lot of archiving of old home videos before my dad passed away. And, you know, I had some good shots of my bedroom growing up. So I was fortunate enough to have like a computer at a young age and a Nintendo in there, TV and whatnot. So I just took those videos and kind of recreated my bedroom. So here's what it looked like in the intro.
Nobody's famous. Are you kidding, bro?
So I'm gonna I'll be pausing a few times, so I'm just gonna turn the volume down on the video and kind of talk through each project as it plays. So here we go. Like I said before, that's the first one. A little bit of backstory. I make beats. I'm a musician. You know, I've been making beats for like over 20 years now. So a lot of the stuff I do is kind of centered around either music or just, you know, characters in history, people in history that I like, or cartoon characters from the 90s, things of that nature. So these were just, this is just a piece on like a drum pad, an MPD 18, basically. I really don't know what this was. It wasn't supposed to be Young Thug, but we can say it is, I guess. Another one I made at the same time, probably the same day. I wanted to upgrade the previous little music piece I made. So here you can see, you know, I started adding some more buttons, started adding some depth and some curves and trying to figure out how to model something from scratch. So it's probably like one of the first things, hard surface modeling, that I ever did. Backstory also is I'm huge on like Black history and just learning different things in history in general. So this was a t-shirt that I had from a few years back, and I wanted to make what looked like a neon sign. If I could do it again, I would definitely clean a lot of things up. I think the letters aren't that bad, but the cables are pretty much trash, and this is not a great angle. And there's no real depth to it. It looks kind of flat. The lighting kind of sucks too. So those are things I would fix if I was to go back and work on that. Blender donut. Everybody knows about that. So these right here, these are actually a remake of a 2D piece that I did. I don't know if I have it on my site. Let me see. No, I don't have it on my site. But basically, I did a J Dilla, a Kanye, and a Pharrell, and I basically recreated these in 3D, just practicing modeling. I wanted to keep it simple, just kind of learn how to use basic shapes and just build things out. Again, this is early on in 2020. These two pieces, I actually followed the tutorial for the ice cream one and the popsicle one. I did just create it on my own. Those actually we had printed out, and they're in the loft for our kids, like in their playroom. So I'm gonna upgrade them or update those soon. If I were to do this same project over again, one thing I would have done was set the camera up better. I would have added a depth of field. I basically just duplicated these in Photoshop. So even if I did it in Photoshop, I would have added some blur to add that depth perspective to it. But other than that, you know, they're cool for what it was at the time. I was happy with it. It's just some faces, just to create, trying to work. Bluey came out. Bluey was popular during the pandemic. This is Gerald from Hey Arnold. I actually recreated this again later on, but this is the first attempt at it. You can see like the edges here, they don't join. I didn't really know how to build walls. Another thing in 3D, you know, you want to bevel the edges. There's no such thing as like straight, perfect edges in real life. Just little stuff like that. Wanted to practice some type. So this is something I created. These were just curves. I did a little bit of sculpting on it. They turned out really well, in my opinion, for the time, but there are like some artifacts in here that some remeshing would have fixed, and I could have smoothed this out a little better. But again, I was just learning. I didn't know what I was doing, so it was kind of going through it at the same time, just learning as I was creating, basically. This is from Miranda Jules contest. I made a few good connections off of this. They basically uploaded the album actually came out 4 years ago, just recently, but I saw that it came out 4 years ago, but they uploaded the assets and we're having a design contest. So this is one of the concepts I had came up with. Some Biggie sculpt, trying to learn how to sculpt. Playing in the 90s again, things from my childhood. Also wanted to try to work on building characters, so I would go through and just try to, you know, model hands, model the body, add clothing, different kinds of clothing and stuff like that. This has potential if I was to redo it, and maybe I will soon, so we'll see. This was the first piece that I made in, I'm just gonna mute this music too, because it's probably get distracting. This is the first piece I made in 2021. So usually every year, every 6 months, every 3 months, I'm like, let me try to make something to like level up my game. So the lighting on this, I was really pleased with at the time, and the composition of it as well, just kind of using abstract shapes to create a familiar figure. So this was a Malcolm X, and I also did a Tupac and a Jay-Z one at this time. This was a Pharrell. It wasn't a full sculpt from scratch. It started off with like a base model from a plugin that I had found. So from the side, from the back, from different angles, it actually looks pretty trash. If I was to redo it again, I could definitely tighten it up and fix things up, but I'm probably not going to circle back to this one. This was a Jay-Z sculpt. I'm still learning how to sculpt. This was a remix of a Pharrell and Snoop song. So this is the first version. I recently did another version about 3 or 4 months ago. This is an updated version of the previous Biggie sculpt. So you can see, you know, I was working on some face painting, adding those different layers, studying like face zones. So obviously like the yellows, and then the darkers, the reds around the lips and the cheeks and stuff like that. Also just like a basic body. At the time, I was pretty happy with it. This was 2021, so Obviously, this was in peak NFT phase. So I like to create like remixes of different songs and then like create that artist or whatever, and then things that tie to either that song or their discography or something like that. So for this video, it actually went through Good Kid, Mad City. So you see like the city and a van behind them. There's like a helicopter. Then they go to the Pimp a Butterfly, and then I went to Damn. So I like the way the animation was with the White House and stuff in the background. Updated version of the Jay-Z sculpt from earlier. So cleaned up the eyes, added some more face painting, cleaned up the clothes. Just try to make it cleaner and go back and apply what I had learned since I made the first version. This was one of the first things I actually made in 2022. So I had bought Character Creator, Marvelous Designer, iClone, and I was trying to just figure out how to use them, how to take those assets that I create in those programs and then take them over to Blender to do my renders, right? So growing up in the South, going to church pretty much every Sunday, I kind of wanted to touch on that, like a small church in the country. You know, in the summertime, you have your fans, and this actually kind of resembles myself, my sister and my mom and dad on this fan. I had just found that image on the internet. You know, hats in the black church with women, that's also a big deal. So I just wanted to kind of capture that feeling and bring it to life in 3D. These were remakes of A Tribe Called Quest covers, so Low End Theory, Midnight Marauders. There's a few different versions for each of these. So once I made those Tribe Called Quest ones, I wanted to start doing a series with that kind of like all blacked out body. And I started using gold highlights. So I did probably about 20 of these. This was the first one that I did, the Michael Jordan one. So just showing his shoes in gold, had a necklace. Each character that I did and each piece I did, it had like gold features, or might have a gold necklace or something like that just tied into it. And I guess the reason why I kept using the gold necklace was because he actually had the gold necklace on in this dunk contest. So that's where it started, and I just started building off of there, and I was basically trying to figure out how to use Marvelous Designer at this time and also use iClone to quickly rig characters and pose them and bring them into Blender and kind of create some cool shots. Everything in the background was actually done in Photoshop. So like the ground and the box with the character is Blender. The background was transparent, and then I would take different assets that I found, like here's the Chicago Bulls banners and stadium seating, and kind of blend those together and do some Photoshop work to make it to composite it basically. Here's just more of those pieces. This one was with Muhammad Ali. This was a few more. Recreated that Andre 3000 piece in this style, touching on different sports moments, just basically exploring, seeing what I can come up with. So then 2022, the summer, I wanted to create like a video, so start animating more. So the first thing I did, I had found an acapella for The Weeknd, Wicked Games. If you're familiar with his first mixtape, you know that it has like the balloons, called House of Balloons, and it has the balloons on it, black and white with the girl on it. So basically I took that concept and just kind of expanded off of that with the remix. So this was the first scene that I created, and there's like 2 versions. Skip past this. All right, so year 3. This was 2022. So this right here, as you see at the beginning of the video, this is the background. Right here, we're in Unreal Engine. So this project was actually had a couple different goals in mind. So the first goal was to learn how to use Unreal Engine and the MetaHumans. So this character right here is kind of like a mix between myself and my son. And then also the project was dedicated to my dad, who had passed away a couple months before this. So I wanted to tell a story through animation of just kind of lessons that I learned from him and different things like that. So this is what that project was. It was called Kill Screen. And, you know, that's my bedroom right there. That's what it looked like. Oh, I'm gonna go back so you can see it. So that was my bedroom. And then this is the 3D version that I recreated. and then we'll show you what the animation looked like. So started off in the arcade. This was the title screen. It was basically based off of like a video game theme. And from there, so after that, I kind of had feeling a little bit more comfortable with animation. So I came across Ready Player Me. They had a lot of avatars, and you could upload a picture. The avatar would be made. It kind of looks like you. So I wanted to create a resume, and I've actually been creating these little video resumes for about 10 years now. So I wanted to do one in 3D. This is what I kind of did based off of like a video game. So I'm going through my different styles, you know, basically just showing my skill set, what I'm capable of, and have my resume on there. It was like all animated to some music for like, you know, 3.5 minutes or so. It was just a Malcolm X piece from a Malcolm X sculpt, basically recreating it from the scene in Spike Lee's Malcolm X. And also I remixed, or I made a beat with some Sam Cooke, A Change Is Gonna Come, to tie it all together, because that was a song that was playing in the movie when the scene was on screen. So this one right here, this is an animated music video I made for an artist, Adrian. I met Adrian like in, let's see, 2008 back in LA. He was living in New York. He came out to LA, hit me up and wanted to make some music. We kind of kept in touch over the years. So he hit me up, wanted to make a music video. So this is what I came up with them in 3D form. The video is called Sometimes, if you want to look it up, by Adrian. All right. So after we did that video, he came to me and wanted another one. So he wanted a visualizer, and I wanted to still make it interesting and tell a story. So this one's called City to Saves. And I had this concept of like a person falling, the background's changing, and everything like that. And what I wanted to also do was like experiment with like different methods and techniques. So all the people you see in the video right here, that was like a plugin I found. All these are 3D assets. And then all of the backgrounds are actually either like found images or AI generated images. And then I basically just tied it all together to experiment on a way to use AI without like saying, hey, this is just a picture that I typed in some prompts, but like unique ways to actually like implement it into the work. And everything was put together in After Effects after I created all the renders in Blender. This one right here, I made a status symbol remix for Nipsey Hussle. I started this one actually before I made any of these other music videos, but it took a while to kind of finish because I was still trying to learn how to sculpt and put characters together and rig them. And I really didn't know the best way to do it or what I was doing, and just kind of a lot of trial and error. So I wanted a claymation look, and it ended up taking a lot longer than I wanted to, but I was pretty happy with it. It's like a 7-minute video, so it did take a while, but overall for the time, when I made it, you know, I was happy with the result. And again, everything was put together in After Effects and Premiere Pro. So this one is called A Thrill Is Gone. It's set to a song by the same title by Nina Simone. I listened to a lot of records. I was just sitting here one Sunday evening just listening to one of her records, and I heard the song, and basically this whole scenario just popped into my head. So it's like a minute video. I actually created the characters from scratch, so I'm not really thrilled on how they look now. Like I could kind of go back and obviously make them look a lot better, but for the time, like I said, I mean, it's a process, it's a journey. We're going through these things, just learning as we go and documenting it. So for the time, I mean, overall, I think the story is strong. I think the look is strong, and I'm happy with it to this day. Still, a couple years later, a year and a half later. So and that was also done in This is also done in Eevee, so like it was a lot of basic shaders that's going to react to the light. Some of them I actually kept. It's like PBR shaders, so like here you can see the shadow to hit on there, but yeah, it's just over here you can kind of see how the lights look, and that's just like a light source hitting that, and you can kind of see the gradients right there. So I was just trying to create like a new, not a new look because it's been done before, but like a unique look for like what I was trying to create and see what I can do. So staying in that style, I did a Jay Dilla piece, so pretended like this was his apartment. I think it's his apartment in LA, and he was making So Far to Go. So I just looked at those reference images, recreated everything, the tables and the 2 rooms, the hallway, records everywhere, stuff like that. So here we are, like about mid 2023. I wanted to get more into character design. So what I started doing here was focusing on just recreating characters in 3D, like 2D characters in 3D. And what I wanted to do is kind of focus on characters who aren't always done in 3D. Like I'm always on like Pinterest and Behance and Instagram and all these other platforms. It's like always looking at art, seeing what's being done, and try to come up with like unique ways to you know, share my work and create and whatnot. So with these, I used to love watching Bebe's Kids when I was a kid, so this is what I created. Yeah, so this right here on the left is actually an Eevee render, and on the right is a Cycles render. This was like a plugin from an artist I found. I forget the name, but he has like these really cool shaders that react to lights in really cool ways. So that's how they look like that. And then I basically just turned these into regular materials and then added some more dramatic lighting and did it in that way. So I was pretty happy with this one as well when I made it. I thought it was like a good jumping off point for what was to come next. So here, this was Uncle Ruckus from the Boondocks. Again, I just wanted to experiment with different techniques. So on here, I actually like hand painted everything in Substance Painter. This was a sculpt that I did. I was actually pretty happy with the sculpt. I thought it was a good start, a step in the right direction for improvement. So I actually tried the other characters as well and got flamed on Reddit, but it's whatever, you know. It just didn't look as good as this one. So here we are. This is like late 2023, early 2024. So like I said before, I always kind of want to go into a year or a new phase of like, I'm gonna level up, I'm gonna step my game up, I'm gonna see what I can do. So for this, I wanted to really focus on lighting and also sculpting, right? So this sculpt's not perfect. I actually redid the sculpt and it looks a lot better like a couple weeks ago. But for the time, 6 months, 7 months ago, I think this was like a really good start in the right direction, as well as, you know, with the Uncle Ruckus pieces and the other pieces. But as you can see, you know, like it has good lighting, the materials are good. The ears are a little off. I don't really like the ears anymore. The lips, I could have made better, you know, things like that. But for the time, I was like, and I still use these as my profile picture. So I'm still happy with it. I still like the lighting a lot and the way it looks. So here's just some different pieces I built off that character. This one right here on the right is called Choose Yourself. So I'm standing at a claw machine, choosing myself. And then this one's just like escape, just standing on the escape button. You know, sometimes you feel like you just want to escape. So those are what those pieces were, the messages they were sharing. So then I took that character, of course, and made another resume. So this is what the resume looks like. He comes up, puts on the Apple Vision Pro, and then I created a whole scene in After Effects that looked like an app would look. This is actually before the Vision Pro came out. And then just kind of go through my everything that I created, everything that I do. So here we're in the very top of 2024. And I bought a tablet and I got Nomad Sculpt, and I wanted to really learn how to sculpt and take it more seriously. So this is one of the first pieces that I finished. I found this piece, I forget the name of the artist, but he basically made like these female characters of the Ninja Turtles. and my daughter, she actually loves the Ninja Turtles, and Donnie is her favorite. So that's the one that I chose to do. So I modeled everything, sculpted everything, and then threw it in the blender and like rigged it and kind of posed it, did all the texturing, and then the lines over the top was just one of the drawing apps. I don't use an iPad, I actually use an Android tablet. It's just a preference of mine. So yeah, just one of the apps, I'm just kind of going through drawing these motion lines and stuff, and that kind of kickstarted a whole kind of theme for what was to come after that, as far as like how my process and how I worked. So here's some J-Bo from the Jay-Z Story of OJ video. I actually did this back in like 2001. I went back and recreated it. Looks a lot better than the original. Better textures, better lighting. The shapes, the forms are a lot better. Just everything about it just looks much better. This was a Biggie piece. I want to say that this is still based off of that Biggie head. And what I wanted to do, I was kind of looking at just different styles, experimenting, and kind of like the old school 1930s rubber hose style look, right? So these are where the arms come from. And this piece is called Gimme the Loot. So, he's got, if you know the song, the #1 mom pendant, he's got the mic, he's got the money, all these different hands going different directions. So that was the concept. And I like it. I thought it turned out pretty well. I might eventually animate it. Somebody mentioned that before, so I might do that. So this piece right here, this is from an artist. It was a 2D piece by an artist named Elsfie from South Africa. And he has some really, really dope stuff. And we kind of started chatting on Threads and Instagram. And I was like, hey, I'm trying to learn how to really sculpt. I want to take my stuff to the next level. Would you mind if I sculpt one of your pieces? So this is what I did. It's basically just a recreation of one of his pieces, but in 3D. So the funnest part of this, probably besides the sculpting of the character, was definitely like painting the face. I learned some more techniques in Substance Painter that I didn't really know, right? Like you could draw a stroke with curves and then you could adjust it. So instead of trying to draw it by hand and make sure it's perfectly straight, you can draw this curve. I mean, you can put this on here with a curve with handles and move it how you want. You can taper the edges, all that kind of stuff. So you see like a lot of these lines that kind of taper down, everything like that came from using those tools. So that's something I learned through this project that I'm really glad that I did learn, because it's very useful. So here's some more sculpts, again, exploring Black history, exploring different figures, but also trying to figure out how to get the proper forms, how to take 2D to 3D, or how to go from photography to 3D space. So this character of Muhammad Ali, back when before his name changed, Cassius Clay, was actually, he had a cartoon for a year back in the 70s. So I basically based it mostly off of the cartoon, but also was trying to include features from real life photos as well. And then this is one of James Baldwin that I did shortly after. This right here is a remix of Devils from Jay-Z. And it's basically a kind of like a pixel art look, maybe like a 1632-bit Sega Genesis type look that I created. And I basically recreated or did like 5 remixes from Reasonable Doubt. And the idea was to have a whole like animated story behind it, but it was probably a little bit ambitious for just one person. But this is like one of the scenes. So basically what I wanted to do was to go in and for each song have a different animation style. And this was the animation style I came up for this one. And it went with telling the story, but I really didn't get into the whole, I have like other visualizer assets that I kind of created, but I never was able to create a whole 13-minute animated video in different styles by myself. But eventually, maybe. All animations were from iClone and Mixamo. So here's that remix of That Girl by Pharrell I was telling you about. So I recreated that piece. All the planets and stuff were from the original version, but everything else I recreated and then animated it. just to make it more dynamic and practice. This was one of remix of Nothing But a G Thing by Snoop and Dre. So again, with this one, this was kind of going off of the city to save concept, right? So you have a character, they have some motion going, and then the backgrounds are changing from there. So that's kind of where that concept came from in that process. So then started sculpting some of the supporting characters from the 90s show Doug. So this is Mr. Dink right here. This is Patty. I've done Pork Chop. I've done, actually I could just, who else did I do? I've done Patty Mayonnaise, Pork Chop, Roger Klotz. I did Judy Funny, like all these different characters from Doug. And that was just sculpting practice to kind of get better at it and figure out how to use Nomad Sculpt, how to take that Nomad Sculpt stuff from there into Blender, add more elements, add the materials, and then render it, right? So after that, it's been about, let's see, when I do this, 2 months ago since I uploaded this video. So Mr. Dink, Patty Mayonnaise were the last ones, and then I ended up doing Judy Funny, a bunch of other things, right? I also have created this billboard that was in Times Square back in February. So there's a walkthrough on that, which I didn't mention in the walkthrough video, right? But these are just some of the animations that were completely done in Blender, put together in After Effects, and ran for a week up in New York. So that was for an organization called Ujima back in February. And then more recently, if you go to my page, so I started. Let's see, videos. So I've done walkthroughs of all of these videos. I did a Black Star Thieves in the Night video, like motion graphic kind of collage found asset piece. And then a bunch of remixes and like a bunch of just time-lapse videos of kind of what I've been working on, just sharing my process. So if you're interested in any of those things, definitely check them out. But I just wanted to like hop on and share like my thought process behind each piece, why I created that piece, and kind of like the journey behind it and where it's going and where I want to take it, right? So, you know, I'm just continuing to build, continuing to just improve the skills and develop my own style. So with developing my own style, I spent literally probably the last 6 or 7 weeks just experimenting with different techniques and trying to figure things out for a bigger project that I want to work on, right? So I ended up coming up with kind of like a paper mache type style. So here in this video you can see, and I'll do a video on this, that I'm basically like, if this character was like the base for some paper mache, I'm basically adding all these paper strips to it and then going through every part of the body, every piece of clothing, then texturing it, you know, and then taking it in to AccuRig, then iClone, using Mixamo motions and my own animations, and then just animating it, right, to have a style that looks something like this. So that's kind of where it's headed. That's where it's going. And after the first 4 years of just creating, learning, following tutorials, making different videos, seeing what works, figuring out what doesn't work, things like that. Now I'm to the part to where I want to really start to lock in on the style and the stories that I want to tell, and to be consistent in the looks visually. So that's where I'm at. But if y'all find this useful, it's long, it's saying 33 minutes now, you know, let me know. If not, it's all good. You know, I just wanted to kind of share the journey on a more personal level. So until next time, I appreciate it. Peace.